Cannonspike from Capcom is an interesting game. Capcom is well known for porting their games. They'll make sure you're able to play every Resident Evil on every system for years to come. But Cannonspike is one of their few games to have never been ported since its original console release. So what is Cannonspike? It's an arcade shooter developed by Psychio. If you're into shoot-'em-ups, then you've probably heard of them, as they made many favorites of the genre, like Dragon Blaze and Gunbird. At the turn of the millennium, they teamed up with Capcom for a few projects. Capcom published Gunbird 2 for Dreamcast, which included Morrigan from Darkstalkers as a playable character. There was also a Capcom Psychio Mahjong game, and then Cannonspike. Shmups were part of Capcom's core DNA in the 80s, but by the mid-90s, they had mostly stopped making them, so teaming up with Psychio was like Capcom's grand re-entry into the genre. It was originally developed for arcades in 2000 on Sega's Naomi hardware, which was a favorite of Capcom's back in the day, which meant it was ported to Dreamcast later in the year. There are 5 characters to choose from, well actually 7, well actually 8, kinda. Most characters come from other Capcom franchises. There's Cammy and Charlie from Street Fighter, Arthur from Ghosts 'n Goblins, Sheba from Three Wonders, and Simone, an original character. Since the game's name is Cannonspike, you would assume Cammy is the main character, but officially it's Sheba. However, in an interview with the Japanese Dreamcast magazine, producer Tetsuya Minami and director Shinsuke Nakamura explained that Cammy was the first character chosen for the game, and was the impetus for the game's concept, as they wanted to explore her personality and needed a speedy character. But they eventually decided on Sheba. Now I may be biased here since Cammy is far and away my favorite Street Fighter character, and I really want to say she has her own game, but I think Cammy is still kinda the main character. I mean, the game's called Cannonspike, the name of her special move, which she can use in this game. Also, she's on the memory card save slot and is the first character seen in the gallery menu. But Sheba's the default character on the select screen, so he's the main character, okay? Actually, on the game's box, it's Charlie who's front and center. But back then, if you were on the box art for a Capcom game, you weren't the main character. Like for Street Fighter Alpha 3, they had Zangief, and Marvel 2, it's Psylocke and Guile, really random. Sheba is often said to be an original character, and he does appear that way. But in the Japanese instruction book and official website, it says he comes from the game Roosters, which is the Japanese name for one of the games within Three Wonders, an arcade game by Capcom. He also has this purple flame companion, which was a power-up in Three Wonders. So while their appearance is vastly different, officially, Sheba is not an original character made for Cannonspike. Rather, they took the character from Three Wonders and reimagined him for Cannonspike. Simone is the only original character that's playable. It's been said she's based on the character Lynn from the Alien vs. Predator beat-em-up. However, there is no official confirmation for this. In that Dreamcast magazine interview, it's left vague, citing adult circumstances about her inspiration. Very odd. In Japan, the game's actually called Gunspike. Internationally, it's known as Cannonspike, so many assume this is just the localized name. But the game was always meant to be known as Cannonspike, even in Japan. In that same interview, the devs said since it's the name of Cammy's move, they thought it would be perfect. See? But when they went to register the trademark, they were told they couldn't use it, and had to change it to Gunspike. So Cannonspike is the original name. As you can see, the artwork for the characters was done by Kino Nishimura. Each character has 2 pieces of art, except for Sheba who has 3. Oh, well I guess that's another indication he's the main character. He gets 3 pieces of art, wow! 2 secret characters are available as well. Megaman from, well, you know, and BB Hood from Darkstalkers. You just move your cursor all the way to the left for Megaman, and right for BB Hood. Apparently they were not readily accessible in the arcade release, and it's been said they were only added to the Dreamcast port, but by inputting a certain maintenance code when booting up the game makes them playable in the arcade version. They only have 1 piece of art, and it's clearly not done by Nishimura, so maybe they were like late editions or something. Let's briefly touch on the game's story. 20XX AD. A troubled world economy caused a surge of mass terrorism. Oh, hey! To combat the terrorists and robot soldiers, the World Union for Peace. Alright, fine, be that way. I'll check the manual. To combat the terrorist robot soldiers, the World Union for Peace organizes a special force equipped with specialized motor boots for ultimate mobility. It's up to this anti-robot special force to enter into battle and rid the world of the robot menace. The future needs you. Okay, robot terrorists, cool. So here's Cannonspike. You move, you shoot, you dodge bullets. A typical shoot-'em-up affair. As mentioned, characters are given motor boots, or high-end roller skates. Except for Sheba who has a skateboard, BB Hood with a scooter, and Megaman with, nothing. You can move around in 8 directions. Maneuvering your way around a screen is a big part of shoot 'em ups, and this works well. There's also a button for locking onto enemies. It feels wonky at first, as it only lasts a couple of seconds, so you have to repeatedly hit the button. But it still works, and is basically a necessity. Each character has their own playstyle, with different abilities, power, and speed, and while differences aren't too drastic, it's enough for players to choose their favorite. They all have the same number of moves, a regular shooting attack, a power shot, and 2 melee attacks. The normal firing attacks are basically the same across the board, but the power shots can vary. For example, Charlie's can really drill into enemies, while Simone's can go through them. Ironically, even though this is a shooter, melee attacks do the most amount of damage, but they'll leave you wide open, as their recovery period is very long. Also, Mega Man never shuts up. I said there were 8 characters earlier, which is kinda true. When hovering over Cammy on the select screen, hitting up will change her outfit to the Shadowloo variant from Street Fighter Alpha. This isn't just a costume change. Cammy will do more damage here, but in return, she takes more damage. So it's not really an 8th character, maybe more like 7.5 characters. Shadowloo Cammy is available by default in the US and European versions, but in Japan, the only way to unlock her was by taking your VMU to an arcade that had the game, and inserting it into the machine. Then she would be downloaded to the memory card. The steps were detailed on the official website, along with a description about the differences between the 2 Cammys. Oh, and if you're wondering, the VMU only shows the logo, that's it. Also available is a special attack. This can be performed by using a red S that can be picked up in stages. Again, each character has a different one, and you can hold a lot of them at once, but you might as well use them, because when you die, you lose most of them, though the exact number depends on the difficulty level. They also make you invincible for a brief moment, which can get you out of a bind. A combo and cancel system exists, but it's not that deep. You can cancel normal melee attacks into heavy ones, power shots, or even specials. Knowing when to use these combos is a good thing to learn. Arthur, however, is the only character to have a unique attribute. His heavy melee attack does a good amount of damage, but you're immobile for about 2 seconds. But he's the only character that can cancel his heavy melee attack into his power shot. This makes him incredibly strong, being able to mow down bosses with ease. Oh, and it goes without saying, the game can be enjoyed with another player in co-op. There are 10 stages in total. The first 4 stages are a set, played in a random order: a town, bridge, city, and even a haunted house. The difficulty of the stages will vary, depending on the order they're played in. I personally prefer the nighttime city stage to be played earlier, as it can be tough later on. While the haunted house is pretty easy, so I prefer that being the 4th stage. And yeah, even though the premise is fighting robots, in one stage you fight zombies for some reason. The 5th through 7th stages are another set, played in a random order: the slope, jungle, and some sort of train station. The 8th through 10th stages have a specific order, as that's when the game is winding down. Each stage has unique enemies, a mini-boss, and a normal boss. Notably, one of the bosses is Vega from Street Fighter, who's fought twice. In his second encounter, he even flies off cages like in Street Fighter. But interestingly, his name, in all versions of the game, is Fallen Balrog. So perhaps the localizers forgot to change his name to Vega. I don't think I have to explain the Balrog name thing, right? But considering Charlie, Megaman, and BB Hood have their localized names, I like to think they didn't realize this was meant to be Vega. Another boss is Kabuki, who is also fought twice. The developers seem to have a lot of fun with him, as he's the most vocal character in the game. Well, besides Mega Man. One of the last bosses is Cat Lady Beauty. Despite her name, she fights alongside these 2 dog-like creatures, I think. Well, they seem more canine than feline to me. First she snipes at you, and then she turns into some sort of cat monster. The penultimate boss is Psychosaur Sting. I don't know what that means. I looked it up and the top result was a page on the Siren wiki, then I had to look up what Siren is. Alright, I'm fairly certain Psychosaur is a misspelling of psychic. Anyway, he seems to be like the main bad guy. That is until the final boss, which is just some sort of robot. The game is pretty short, clocking in at roughly 15 minutes, but cannonspike can be tough. It's very easy for a simple mistake to lead to a huge loss of health. When you first start the game, you only have 3 credits, but the more you play, the more credits you unlock. It doesn't tell you when you unlock them, all of a sudden you just permanently start with 1 more credit. The highest my game goes up to is 6, and you can't adjust this. Once you unlock more credits, that's what you'll be playing with. By getting enough credits, you'll be able to reach the end. There are 7 difficulty stages, going all the way up to very hard and down to baby. I'm not playing that, I'm not a baby. However, when you die, your high score resets back down to 0. So if you want to preserve your score, you either have to beat the game or not continue. And yeah, it's not like scores and leaderboards are important, but you know what? Trying to clear the game in one go was a ton of fun. I could see myself improving with each attempt and formulating my own strategies. It felt genuinely rewarding. And if you beat the game on 1 life, on normal or higher, the game loops back to the start, but on a higher difficulty, as evidenced by the top of the screen. This is a staple of Psycho games. And if you manage to complete the game again, the game just ends. There isn't a third cycle. Also, sometimes my high scores weren't saved. The instruction book says there's an autosave, but to be safe, I manually save from the menu. While I said the game can be tough, you can come up with ways to cheese the game. Some enemies you can easily stun-lock with power shots. And while the final boss may look menacing, he's susceptible to an easy strategy: mashing melee attacks. Yes, this really works on the final boss. Beating the game grants you an ending for your character. These are pretty standard and not that worthwhile. I think Charlie fucking dies in his, so there's that. But beating the game with 2 players will reward you with an ending for that specific pair. Some of these have copy and paste elements to them, but for the most part, they're pretty unique, and are definitely better than the solo endings. Except for when characters are paired with Megaman or BB Hood. Theirs are, for the most part, just their normal endings. Megaman simply tells his partner to escape, and then his ending plays as normal. BB Hood's is similar, though you get to see her kick her ally in the face and then punting them into an escape pod, before, again, her solo ending plays. Possibly another indication these 2 were rushed. The gallery mode unlocks after beating the game once, and it's pretty good. There's concept art not just for the characters, but for enemies too. There's a ton for Kabuki. Again, he must have been a developer favorite. He's so expressive here, but in-game, he's all smiles. Also, there's bonus artwork for the main cast, and they're pretty cool to look at. Sheepas reinforces his connection with 3 Wonders. The game runs at 60 frames per second, but unfortunately, it's not very consistent. Slowdowns can and will happen. Hell, it's basically a mechanic of the final boss. That is, if you see the attacks. The problem is exacerbated with 2 players. It's nothing game-breaking, but it's a notable downside. There are little Easter eggs too. In the occupied town stage, there is a store called Sansan. This is a callback to a stage in Street Fighter Alpha, which is a parody of the Lawson Japanese convenience store chain. The store also appeared in Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo and Capcom vs SNK, but it's also a reference to the Capcom arcade game from 1984, Sansan. Okay, that was a lot. The parish town stage also has signs for 1945, another Psycho game. And there's a sign for Gun Bard, a misspelling of the Psycho game Gun Bird. And in Cammy and Shiba's ending, there's a sign that says Sengoku, which is another Psycho game. At least I think that's an N, I really hope that's not an X. Overall, Cannonspike is fun, especially if you're into arcade games. But you can tell this was a budget game. Nothing wrong with that, but some corners were cut. Like the box art, they just took Sting and Arthur and stretched them out in Photoshop, resulting in the images looking really blurry. It's cheap. And in the instruction book, the art for BB Hood isn't from this game. And Megaman's is totally wrong. That's Megaman Bullnut from Legends. Just another indicator this was probably a low priority game. I'm actually surprised Capcom released this outside Japan. I guess it must have been an easy process or something. Hell, the game released in Europe in 2002, after the Dreamcast was discontinued. Like, damn. The game only sold for $30 at retail, so that's cool. But in recent years, the game has skyrocketed in value. I bought mine in 2014 for I think $50, and I thought that was a lot. Now, complete in box, the game goes for about $300, sometimes $400. I'm not sure why the game went up in price, but it not being available on other platforms probably had something to do with it. Come to think of it, this does fit the bill of a valuable game. It has recognizable characters, has never been re-released, and was on a console that underperformed. And if you're looking to sell, well, you better have that registration card. That makes the price go up. It's not complete in box without the registration card. Yeah, this thing right in the middle of the manual. Lots of games had this back in the day. Wait, what does this say? Please note the autosave game function, as described on page 9, has been removed from the game. Data will not autosave. To save a game, return to the main menu and manually select the save game option. Are you kidding me? They said there was an autosave, but there actually isn't, so instead of fixing it, they just printed this on the registration card. You see what I mean by low priority? But like I said, this is still a fun game. Does it excel at anything in particular? No, not really. The graphics are something to be desired, even for back then, and the music is just okay. But it's still cool this game exists. Like, imagine you were a new Street Fighter fan and you're browsing the fan wiki and discovering this for the first time. It's like, oh wow, there was a crossover shooter, that's awesome. It's just cool knowing about. Even though the game is borderline niche, it has left somewhat of a legacy. An action figure of Cammy, directly based on Cannonspike, was made in 2005 by Soda as a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, though it took a few liberties. There's a scouter-like thing on her head and a knife around her leg. Interesting. There's also wheels on her motor boots. Nice. It came with a magnetic stand that actually worked. I had it, but I can't find it and I'm not buying another. Cammy's design in Street Fighter V is based on her appearance in Cannonspike. Now you're probably thinking, wait, it's just her standard outfit, but you would be wrong. The first time Cammy didn't have camouflage on her legs in a game was in Cannonspike, and the holsters around her leg and torso are directly taken from the game. So yeah, her default Street Fighter V look is a homage to Cannonspike. But to take it even further, a full Cannonspike outfit, motor boots included, was made available later on for her and Charlie, via a limited time loot box. Jesus. They even have special win quotes against each other when wearing the costumes. Wait, Charlie says Cammy was the leader of the anti-robot force, so she was in charge of the group. And while Vega didn't get a Fallen Balrog skin, Cammy will have a special win quote against him when wearing this outfit. Sheba and Simone also got entries in the Street Fighter character encyclopedia, kinda sorta making them canon to Street Fighter. Like, the game itself can't be, no way. But I guess these two now somewhat exist in the Street Fighter universe. So does that make Cannonspike a Street Fighter spin-off? Or I don't know, who cares about Street Fighter lore? The crossover mobile game Teppen had a special Cannonspike event in 2022, where cards based on the game were added. Even Kabuki got a card. The event kept the terrorist robot framing, but instead of Psychosaur Sting or whatever, it's Sigma and robot masters from Mega Man X. Mega Man himself doesn't make an appearance, oddly, but even stranger is that Charlie was completely replaced by Nathan Spencer from Bionic Commando. Okay. And in Street Fighter VI, stickers based on Cannonspike were available in the Boot Camp Bonanza Battle Pass. 2 of them were Cammy. Man, come on, with all of this, can we please just consider Cammy as the main character? Please? At the end of the day, this isn't Psycheo's finest work, but it's one of their more noteworthy titles. If you're a fan of shooters, it's definitely worth playing. I found the best way to play was to really try to push yourself to get a high score. I want to reiterate that I had so much fun retrying the game again and again, improving with each attempt, and I was finally able to beat the game's 2 cycles with 1 life on the hardest difficulty. It was really satisfying being able to do this, and I think I got a pretty good score. But it's not worth $300 or $400. While I'm glad Capcom hasn't exactly forgotten about Cannonspike, it's high time the game got a re-release. Capcom tends to not let a single game stay gone for too long, so I think they will put this in some sort of collection one day. Hopefully sooner rather than later.